Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Beastly Eel, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the series premiere of Lanterns. So this is in three different times. So we're going to talk about 1996, 2016, and we'll be talking about 2026. So shockingly enough, the 2016 will be the longest part of this video. So bear with me. So in 1996, we get to see Jon Stewart, who obviously his dad is a Marine, wanting to watch Hal Jordan basically announcing himself to be the Green Lantern. Green Lantern being the space police, thinking that he's the greatest hero of all time. We see obviously the strictness in a military home, and also the craziness of Jon Stewart's dad, specifically on asking John if he is fearful, and John's like no. Places an apple on his son's head, shoots the apple with a gun, where, by the way, there were like a bunch of bullet holes in the damn garage to show that this isn't the first time it's been done, and most likely probably wasn't the last time. And showing basically that Jon Stewart is not afraid. So we then boost ourselves forward to 2016, where we see Jon Stewart waiting, and Hal Jordan pulls up in a car, basically saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm late. I'm hungover and everything else." And John is just like, "Yep, you got it, sir," and gets in the car without a problem. And Hal's just like, "You're not even a little mad? Like, not even a little bit? Like, not a single thing bothers you at all that I'm late or anything else?" And John's like, "Nope, no, sir." And basically, the whole conversation is about Hal training Jordan. Hal training John. Jeez, screwed that one up. So the whole idea is apparently Hal Jordan is assigned to train Jon Stewart to be the next Green Lantern. However, it sounds like for these past several months, Hal has taught John very little. In fact, hasn't even let him use the ring yet. So at one point, finally, Hal takes off the ring, pushes himself out of the car, and tells him where to go. Not in a bad way, like literally telling him to go to a taco shop like 3 miles down the road. So John grabs the ring, uses it to create bubble wrap to save himself, and walks himself back to the taco stand. On his way to the taco stand, the ring has sentience and shows up as none other than Hal Jordan, basically being like, "Whoa, why do you have my ring? Am I dead?" And he's like, "No, you're very much alive." And he's like, "Are you mad at me or something? Like, I'm feeling some tension here." He's like, "What do you think?" And Hal's just like, "Well, sorry." And he finally, but this version basically hears about the Hal is supposedly training John, and he's like, we've never done that before." And basically being like, "Well, it's happening now, and that's what's happening." And so they kept asking him questions and everything else about what, like, basically the main reason of like trying to figure out what was going on. And so basically the hologram of Hal was basically like, "Hey, what year is it?" And he tells him that it's 2016. He's like, "Oh, I have not been uploaded in 10 years." Because apparently every Green Lantern is supposed to upload their consciousness every week. I believe it's every week. Don't quote me on that though. Now I'm not as confident as that, but he hasn't been done in over 10 years, or in 10 years. So the idea is he goes questioning on whether or not to tell John the information that he needs to give to Hal. So basically tells him like, "Hey, why don't you tell," or like, John's just basically like, "Tell me what you want me to tell him." And he's like, "Tell him it's hailing in Nebraska. I'll know what that means," and then disappears. So he goes over to the taco stand where Hal is being treated as a celebrity. He tells Hal, like, basically, he's like, "Oh, what did you make?" And he's like, "I made bubble wrap." And he's like, "Oh, that's kind of sad." Um, Gets the ring back, and then he's like, "Oh, and by the way, your ring had a message for you." And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "What did it say?" And he's like, "It's hailing in Nebraska." So Hal then flies away. John then has to take a flight to fly there, then get a rental car to drive over to where he needed to be. And Hal is waiting he has to get permission to go in because it's a crime scene. Is given permission to go in, meets Hal in the bleachers, and the sheriff comes up and basically berates the two of them, being like, "You shouldn't be here. This is her jurisdiction, and neither of them should be involved at all." And Hal makes it very clear, being like, "Hey, this is an alien. Like aliens are involved." And she's like, "How do you know that?" He's like, "I got a feeling." And she's like, "I don't really care about your feeling. This is Nebraska." She goes, "Just because, like, we all might know that other life lives outside of this world, but it's a whole nother thing to live it. So I don't want you people talking to the press and scaring these people anymore." So it's done. So now Hal and and John are speaking, and John's just like, "This is ridiculous. Like, we need to let him know what's going on and all this stuff, like what our thought process is." And he's like, "There's no point in that." And then John realizes that there's one guy who's in a t-shirt just hanging around. And John's like, "Oh, we gotta tell him." And he's like, "You really think that's the best idea?" And John's like, "Yeah, but you have to respect authority." He's like, "You know what? Then go right ahead." So John tells the sheriff. The sheriff basically says, "I already knew this. I'm trying not to spook him." And he's like, "Oh, I screwed up, didn't I?" And she's like, "Yeah, you did." So the guy begins to run away. John chases after him. The sheriff runs after him as well. There's a big chase. John takes a shortcut, knocks the guy down. He is captured and arrested. Hal basically states that he needs to interrogate him, and the sheriff tells him very nicely to go F off. So that night they go to a bar. Hal starts a fight in the most hilarious way possible, basically by making a specific song play like on loop. Causes a fight, gets him arrested, and John starts hooking up with a woman at the bar and has Hal Jordan's ring. So the next day, John heads over to the police station, and the sheriff's like, "Oh, so you're here to pick up your stupid friend?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, don't worry, he's in the broom closet." He's like, "Oh." She's like, "Yeah, it was almost as if he wanted to be arrested. You know, put in the same cell next to the person I told him he couldn't interrogate." And John's like, "Yeah, I told him it was a stupid idea." And she goes, "Yeah, well, maybe you should have told him louder, because obviously he didn't get it." So John's like, "Oh, can we get him out?" And she's like, "Nope, not until he's arraigned." So then Hal is in front of the judge, basically stating, his case, and the judge puts a $100,000 bond on him, and a lawyer comes to defend him. Hal is not happy with that number. It's then doubled to $200,000. The judge basically states, "Hey, you can keep this up, and I keep adding to it." And the lawyer basically says, "Nope, it's all taken care of. My dad will be sending you the check later." So it's all set. He's released. He's then told he has to go to have a barbecue over at the lawyer's dad's house. The sheriff is the wife of the lawyer, and she basically claims to Hal, like, "Hey, you owe money to a guy you've never met. And that's the kind of guy, because I've met him, that you do not want to owe money to." So we have that conversation in that sense, and then it's done there. They go to the barbecue. The guy already knows about Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. Um, we find out that apparently the woman at the bar that he slept with is the lawyer's mom, which means it's also the guy who bailed Hal Jordan out's wife. So it's a lot of all that. Hal gets more information of the reason why he was um, given the bond, which is the fact of, like, there are aliens among us. So basically, he tells the guy, like, "Hey, like, your daughter-in-law stops me from interrogating the guy," and he goes, "I need to do that so I can make sure I do my job." He's like, "I'll take care of it for you." So it was told to him, it was told to Hal that he had to be there at 9 a.m. the next morning to interrogate the prisoner. So we have an exchange between the dad of the lawyer and John, which proved very much so that he knew that he slept with his wife, or that John slept with his wife. And Hal's like, "What is going on there?" And John tells him, and he's like, "Wow, I'm proud of you." So the next day, they go to interrogate the prisoner. Hal goes in there. First off, apparently they were late, and the sheriff was not happy about that. So they go in there. Oh, he goes in there, tells everyone to stay back, and he has a conversation with the prisoner, basically stating that he's an alien and everything else, and that he starts asking him questions that everyone should know. So he starts asking him about football, which he has all the answers to. And then he starts asking him about Harry Potter and Obama. And the thing that gets him is he knows nothing about Harry Potter, but knows that Obama is the president and that there was some disparities on his birth certificate. And that's when Hal Jordan goes, "Oh, you are an alien." And then everyone else is just kind of like stunned at what's going on. And that's when the alien, that's when the prisoner switches his tone and is basically like, well, let's pretend I am an alien. And basically states that he is on revenge and that he's trying to do peace, and that if it doesn't happen, that he will just blow himself up with the device that's inside of him. And Hal basically is getting pissed off and everything else. The two of them have an angry exchange to the point where the now sort of confirmed alien states, "Hey," he starts doing the Green Lantern oath. Hal gets pissed, slams him up against the wall. He then begins to tick, and the alien begins to laugh. Hal throws him to the ground, covers him in a green orb to basically hold in the explosion, causes the massive explosion, causing a massive shockwave throughout the city, cracking almost every window in sight, and knocking both John and the sheriff down to the ground. And it ends basically with Hal being like, "Yeah, it's definitely an alien." And then we end it in 2026, which is John Stewart driving back to Nebraska, where he meets the sheriff who called him there, and it's a wintry night. And he basically states to her before going in there with her, "Does anybody else know?" And she goes, "No, just the groundskeeper. It's just you, me, and the groundskeeper." So they walk over, and we see a Hal Jordan with a bullet in his head. John checks his hand and sees no ring. And that's how the episode ends. So, the thought here is that Hal Jordan is replaced with a manhunter, or some sort of shape-shifting alien. The reason why I say that is because Hal is acting kind of weird in 2016. And then the other thing is, John Stewart doesn't have the ring after Hal Jordan is dead. So that would also mean that Hal is not actually dead, and that he's alive somewhere, and that the ring is taken. Because John gets the ring sent to him once Hal Jordan is officially dead. So that's where my thought process is. Also, the other factor, too, is we will be getting... We're going to be getting the reason why the original Green Lantern that was shot down, Ebusur, I think is how you say it, Anubisur, I forget how you say it. But anyway, the one that was shot down, we're also going to get the history of that and why that happened, because apparently Earth is not a safe place to be for aliens. So we will have to wait to find out the rest of that. But, incredible first episode. I saw a lot of comments about like people being like, "Hal's dead, that's so stupid. We just got the greatest Green Lantern and they ruined it." We don't know he's actually dead. People need to really watch the episode to figure out that, hey, he might not actually be dead because there are aliens who shapeshift. So let us think about that next time before we go on the internet and saying crazy things. So, incredible start to the series. Cannot wait to see how the rest of this series goes. But let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you not? And why? And as always, if you like the content you see, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.